became established and have remained almost uncontested. The significant fact is that almost all his omissions and misleading codings of names were intended to make Rahel's associations and circle of friends appear less Jewish and more aristocratic, and to show Rahel herself in a more conventional light, one more in keeping with the taste of the times. Typical of the former effort is the fact that Henrietta Hertz always appears as Frau von B or Frau von BL, even where there was no need to disguise the name on grounds of the remarks being unfavorable. That Rebecca Friedländer, who as a writer used the pen name of Regina Froberg, is always denoted by Frau von F. Typical of the latter is that the few letters and extracts from letters to Pauline Wiesel are dressed up as diary notes, or appear as addressed to a Frau von V, so that the part this friendship played in Rahel's life has been completely eradicated from the documents. There is always a certain awkwardness in an author's speaking of his book, even one written half a lifetime ago, but since this book was conceived and written from an angle unusual in biographical literature, I shall nevertheless venture a few explanatory remarks. It was never my intention to write a book about Rahel, about her personality, which might lend itself to various interpretations according to the psychological standards and categories that the author introduces from outside, nor about her position in romanticism and the effect of the Goethe cult in Berlin, of which she was actually the originator, nor about the significance of her salon for the social history of the period, nor about her ideas and her Weltanschauung, insofar as these can be reconstructed from her letters. What interested me solely was to narrate the story of Rahel's life as she herself might have told it. She considered herself extraordinary, but her view of the source of that quality differed from that of others. She attempted to explain this feeling in innumerable phrases and images, which retain a curious similarity throughout her life as they strive to formulate the meaning of what she called destiny. Her whole effort was to expose herself to life, so that it could strike her like a storm without an umbrella. What am I doing? Nothing. I am letting life rain upon me. She preferred not to use characteristics or opinions on persons she encountered, on the circumstances and conditions of the world, on life itself, for purposes of shelter. Following this principle, she could neither choose nor act, because choice and action in themselves would anticipate life and falsify the purity of life's happenstance. All that remained for her to do was to become a mouthpiece for experience, to verbalize whatever happened. This could be accomplished by introspection, by relating one's own story again and again to oneself and to others. Thereby, one's story became one's destiny. Everyone has a destiny. Who knows what kind of destiny he has? To this end, the particular traits one had to have, or to marshal within oneself, were an unflagging alertness and capacity for pain. One had to remain susceptible and conscious. Rahel herself once very clearly characterized the romantic element in such an undertaking when she compared herself to the greatest artists, and commented, "But to me, life itself was the assignment." To live life as if it were a work of art, to believe that by cultivation one can make a work of art of one's own life, was the great error that Rahel shared with her contemporaries. Or rather, it was the misconception of self which was inevitable so long as she wished to understand and express, within the categories of her time, her sense of life. The resolve to consider life and the history it imposes upon the individual as more important and more serious than her own person.